Dark Souls is one of the greatest video game franchises ever. Ever since I first touched Dark Souls 3, I heard the bells of awakening, and after playing through Elden Ring, I was completely hooked. So I've seen some people play through the Souls games at level 1 and thought, that sounds like a blast, I want in. And here we are. I chose Dark Souls 3 for my first run because I really like it. And I also have a lot of thoughts on the game. And yes, I said first. If this video does well, I might do more of these on the other games in the series. But with that all out of the way, here's my experience with Dark Souls 3 at level 1. I chose to play as a depraved class because it's my favorite and it also starts at level 1, so that only seemed appropriate. After waking up after a long night at the pub, I immediately ran over to the Crystal Lizard and died to him 2 times before claiming his Titanite chunk. A valuable upgrade material that I was definitely gonna need this run. After that whole ordeal, I lit the first bonfire and made my way over to what is in my opinion the best tutorial boss in any Souls game, Latex Gundyr. On my first playthrough I got my ass handed to me a few dozen times at least. I'm very split on this boss because on the one hand I think he's a great opening boss to show you what's to come, but on the other hand he might be a bit too difficult for beginner players, speaking from experience here. On repeat playthroughs he isn't too bad, but for beginners he can be very mechanically demanding, and because it's the first boss, you haven't had the chance to get accustomed to the controls and all the systems yet. I think that should be a topic for another video, as I don't think there's one right answer here. But what do I actually think of the boss? I absolutely love him. Like I said, he's pretty mechanically demanding for beginners, but after you finish your first playthrough and you start your second one, his difficulty is just right. Not too easy so you practically fall asleep, but not too hard that it feels unfair. He has a couple of delayed attacks that teach the player to not panic roll, combined with some combo extenders, which teach you to always stay alert after an attack. Overall, I think this boss is an excellent opener to this game. A tier. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, I'm also doing a tier list for all the bosses, because I'm so original. After defeating the funny Latex man, you get the Firelink Shrine, a beautiful hub area that gives off a really cozy and safe feeling. After doing some murdering out in this bleak world, this place really makes you feel safe. Kind of like Firelink from Dark Souls 1, but arguably even better in my opinion. After making our way through the beautiful Lothric High Wall and getting the pride flag from Emma, we make our way over to one of the bosses of all time, Vordt of the Boreal Valley. Vordt is a big frog dude who can turn into Sonic and break all your bones in 7 seconds. I think he's really fun to be honest. My only real complaint is that he is piss easy. Like genuinely, the only reason I didn't beat him on my first try is because I got careless and just look. That definitely hurt my pride a bit. Next try, I basically no-hit him until literally the final second. Just look at that. I'm genuinely kind of sad that he's so easy. I would have loved him to have some actually threatening attacks, because right now, you can just stand under, slash behind him, and there's basically nothing he can do. And phase 2 only makes his problem worse because of the Frost Breath attack. On a normal playthrough you can basically take him out when he does that, but even on the level 1 run, I took like a quarter of his HP. The dash attack is genuinely super cool though. Like, yes, it is really easy to dodge, but my god is it fun to do so. Overall, I'd give this boss a B tier. Not because he's bad, but because he just has some real missed potential, which really drags him down for me, unfortunately. After putting the obese frogman out of his misery, we're able to move on to the Undead Settlement, and here the game really starts to open up. This area is just beautiful and just breathes life. Kind of ironic considering the metric fuckton of gravestones. The area has some real nice shortcuts and points of interest for this run, mainly the Chromphy ring for extra stamina recovery, and Flint's ring, which buffs damage at low equipment load. The perfect rings for this challenge. There's also an Estus shard and an Undead Bone shard I highly recommend getting. The boss of this area is a real nightmare, but not because he's mechanically challenging like Gundyr, but because he just fucking sucks. Curse-rotted Greatwood is such an object failure of a boss that I always dread fighting him. And while you can technically skip him, he drops the transposing kiln, which is required to get boss items. But let's actually get into why this boss can choke on a volcano pot. This is kind of a gimmick boss. His gimmick is that there are a bunch of cysts on his body that you need to hit to inflict damage, and after hitting his balls for a while he goes into phase 2 where the whole arena shifts. Now, I actually really like this twist, because new players won't see it coming, so it's a nice surprise. It also kills all the normal enemies in the arena. But my god, this boss has it all. Janky hitboxes that made me question my sanity, Attacks that take so long to finish, I could make breakfast while he's doing it. Even though I'm writing this at 3 AM, but who cares, just let me live my life! But even with all that said, I don't actually hate this boss, surprisingly. I guess I sort of a love-hate relationship? I'm putting this boss in C tier because of the interesting arena change in phase 2 and the aesthetic of the arena and boss. With that, we conclude the Undead Settlement and we make our way over to the Road of Sacrifices. After we make our way to the next bonfire, we arrive at the swamp? Woods? Both? The boss in this area is Crystal Sage, and I think he's fine. He's nothing too special, but he's not bad either. His design is seriously cool though. He's a mage, as his name suggests, but not in my run. I killed him first try and he barely got any hits off, except for in phase 2, where he uses the Shadow Clone Jutsu from Naruto, which causes me to almost die. Phase 1 I could do with my eyes closed. You run up to the boss, hit him a few times and he disappears. Repeat. But in phase 2 you actually have to pay somewhat attention to find the real Crystal Sage. On a normal playthrough I just ignore the clones, but on a level 1 run you really do have to kill them because of your limited health, so you can't just tank through everything. I'd rate this boss at the top of B tier. He really isn't bad, but I just can't give him A tier. We now stand at a crossroads. We can either go through Farron Keep, or we can go up to the Cathedral of the Deep. Hey, that rhymed. I first went up to the cathedral to get some bonfires for in advance and to gather some upgrade materials. After that, I went through everyone's favorite kind of Dark Souls level, a poison swamp. Okay, but this one isn't actually that bad. I think it's kind of in between Blighttown and the Lake of Rot in terms of annoyance. I think the most annoying part about the swamp is the deeper parts where you can barely move at all. It is so goddamn annoying and it takes so long for no reason. The actual puzzle isn't too bad. You just gotta put out 3 fires through the swamp, which are pretty easy to find because of the big towers above them. After lighting all 3 torches, the big door opens and you gain access to the Artorias cosplayers. I do recommend getting the bonfire close by first though, so your run back is cut down dramatically. But let's get on to the actual boss. The Abyss Watchers. I absolutely love this boss, from the design to the music to the fact that it's a subversive take on the duo fight. Its design reminds me of the Hunters from Bloodborne, and maybe it's the Bloodborne bias, but I'm gonna give it a few extra points for that. The music as well, you're hearing it right now. I feel like not enough people talk about the music in Dark Souls 3. This is definitely one of the better ones, in my opinion. And I love how when you're fighting the first one, a second one wakes up, so you think, oh, this is gonna be a duo fight, alright? But then a third one wakes up and starts attacking the first 2. God, the first time I saw that I was so confused. It's a great bait and switch, and it makes phase 1 really chaotic and fun. My strategy for this boss is to bait for backstabs, and most of his attacks give you a pretty reliable backstab with some decent positioning. And after the backstab, I charge up a heavy attack to hit him when he gets up. After the friendly one wakes up, this becomes much easier, since the main watcher will be focusing his attention on the imposter. Now, onto phase 2. Oh my god, phase 2. If phase 1 was, yeah, pretty good but not incredible, phase 2 is the cream of the crop. This boss is truly the Dark Souls of Dark Souls. Okay, but all jokes aside, phase 2 is downright incredible. His attacks are so fluid and well choreographed. The fire after each attack makes the dodge roll timings even tighter, and the fire is just beautiful. A real visual treat. I really love this boss. Easy S tier for me. After defeating these sexy men, we make our way into the catacombs. One of the absolute worst areas in the game. I've never liked catacombs or dungeons in FromSoft games, but this one is particularly annoying because of the awful enemies. You have these absolutely infuriating skeletons called Grave Warden skeletons, which make my blood boil. You also can't forget about the wheelie boys, which make me want to tear my hair out. All around a truly wonderful area, if you're a masochist. You can find the Carvus Blood Ring here though, which is one of my personal favorite rings. It increases your iframes by a pretty substantial amount at the cost of reducing your absorption by 30%, a pretty worth it trade-off to me in this challenge. At the end of this area we meet High Lord Wolnir. What an absolute joke of a boss. Outside of the spectacle, of course. Even on a level 1 run, this guy goes down before he can do anything special. You have to destroy his 3 special friendship bracelets to defeat him, and they all take only a couple of hits each before breaking. It's pretty pathetic. This guy goes in F tier immediately, not even a question. He is so underwhelming, it screams missed potential. It kind of sucks that he's a required boss, because he's the gatekeeper to one of the most beautiful areas in the whole game, Aldrfilth. But we can't enter yet, because we need an item that grants us passage. That item is dropped by a boss in the cathedral that we previously visited. The cathedral is beautiful. It's really big and gives off a feeling of raw skill. There's a bunch of little ledges and walkways that are great to fall off of to your death. But we're not here to look at the scenery. We're here for the small doll, held by the boss of this area, Dickons of the Deep. Okay, I find it kind of hard to call this a boss. It is basically just a big group of sweaty gamers who think you're their gamer girl. As you might have guessed from my description, they want to touch you without your consent. And there's one Sigma male orb that flies into one of the gamers occasionally, and you have to kill that gamer, which makes the orb choose another gamer. You have to repeat the process until the orb is at half health, which triggers the true Sigma male to him. You have to repeat this process until the orb is at half health, which triggers the true Sigma male to emerge from the ground to try and get a victory royale. Phase 2 is honestly much easier than Phase 1, because there's only one dude you have to hit over and over again. The low damage of a level 1 run is definitely noticeable here, but even then it's not that bad and only takes a minute at most. Just fall back after getting a few hits in and dodge the gamer's advances on you. This boss gets a nice and comfortable spot in F tier, because I have a lot of trouble even calling this a boss. I guess the arena is somewhat nice, and seeing this big swarm of people walking towards you is pretty funny, but a bit menacing at low health. Oh well, we got the doll and that's all that matters. Now we can enter the big snow globe, Aldrfilth. Alright, so this is gonna seem a bit weird, but I'm gonna skip over Aldrfilth and Sylvan for now. I'll explain why later. So, after entering Aldrfilth, I made my way into the dungeons where the Christians go. This place is so fucking annoying. The catacombs are nothing compared to this, and that's all because of this one enemy type, the jailers. Looking in their direction makes your max health rapidly deplete to 1 temporarily, which wouldn't be bad, but there's so many tight corridors and rooms that getting cornered is really easy, especially when you're like me and you want to explore for goodies. After making our way out of the BDSM dungeon, we make our way to the profaned capital, or what's left of it anyway. This place is really run down, like most places in Dark Souls, but it just gives off this vibe of sadness. Like in its prime, this place really was something incredible. Oh well, we don't care about that. We just want to kill the next Lord of Cinder that resides here, Yorm the Giant. So I didn't mention it before, but I did Sigurd's quest for the first time this playthrough, so he's helping me fight Yorm, as you can see. This honestly didn't change the fight like at all, because Yorm is the easiest gimmick boss I have ever fought. So basically, you need to use a special weapon to kill him that is in his arena, Storm Ruler. I mean, you don't have to, but not doing so just means you're needlessly handicapping yourself. This boss is a real stinker, to be honest. It's not even a well done gimmick boss like Rykard from Elden Ring. He's either yawn-inducing easy because you used the gimmick weapon, or incredibly tedious because you decided to not use the gimmick weapon. This boss rests comfortably in F tier. Such missed potential, it almost hurts. You can probably see a running theme here. The bosses in Dark Souls 3 are either incredibly high quality, like some of the best the series has seen, or the most underwhelming ones you can imagine. It just feels really weird that this guy is a Lord of Cinder. Why not Pontiff? He's 100 times more mechanically complex and challenging. There's probably some lore reason why that's not possible, but I think that's a poor excuse because then Miyazaki shouldn't have written the lore this way. You can't really justify poor gameplay by saying, well, the lore says so, but that might just be me. So the reason I skipped over Aldrfilth and Pontiff is because while I did give him a few tries immediately after entering Aldrfilth, I quickly made my way to Yorm, so that would be really confusing to write. Aldrfilth is absolutely gorgeous. This is one of the prettiest places in all of Dark Souls, hands down. Everything feels so magical, and the layout of the streets and buildings it just feels like a slightly less complex version of the central Yharnam from Bloodborne. Entering this area also really feels like you've entered the mid-game. I mean, you could say you've entered mid-game after Abyss Watchers, but I feel like this fits much better. Mainly because the boss of this area is the first one that took me more than a few tries to beat. Pontiff Sylvan is one of the best bosses in Dark Souls 3. I know what I said. His design is super cool. The way he holds his swords, the way he moves, just everything, it's so fluid and cool. A lot of people call him unfair because of his seemingly infinite combo extenders, yada yada, but that's not true. It's just that this boss really likes to punish healing, so my advice is to wait for his guaranteed opening. That opening is him crossing his swords. That's his idle position, and getting behind him when that happens is the strat. You will 100% of the time be able to get at least 1, usually 2 hits in if you've done it right. This is also a good time to heal. Because you see, the boss has to be facing you to attack, so you can exploit this AI quirk to get attacks in. He's actually one of the more fair bosses because his attacks are really well telegraphed, and every time I died, it didn't feel like the game cheated me, but I just made a mistake. That feeling signifies how good a boss is, in my opinion, which is something I can't say about the next boss on our list of entities that make me question my sexuality. After killing the sexy churchman, we make our way through this beautiful kind of cathedral building to a very familiar place, Anor Londo. This reveal didn't hit as hard for me because I played Dark Souls 3 before I played Dark Souls 1, which kind of sucks, but it's still really cool to see this place being completely decayed. Inside is probably the boss I'm most angry over in this entire playthrough, but not for the reasons you might think. Aldrich, Devourer of Gods, has maybe the coolest boss design in the whole game, which makes it even harder to say that this boss sucks complete ass. On normal runs this boss is already kind of annoying, but not too hard, like a 6 something out of 10. But on a level 1 run he sucks so much more, but not because of any kind of mechanical challenge, no. The arrow rain is just even more bullshit than usual. It isn't fun to dodge, it doesn't do anything interesting, it's just a shit move that drags the fight out and just wastes your time. Which is really fucking sad because the lore behind Aldrich is so interesting and his design is absolutely amazing. He isn't a bad boss, just really tedious. There isn't a whole lot else to say about this boss. C tier, mostly for the design and the whole aesthetic. Otherwise he would be even lower. After killing all the Lords of Cider except for Lothric, we get teleported to Emma, the nice old lady. Oh, and now she's dead. Cool. Here we have Dancer of the Boreal Valley, one of the fucking coolest bosses in all of the Souls games. This was the first boss I had to really grind on to win. I think all around this boss took me around an hour and a half to 2 hours, which I honestly didn't expect because her first phase is pretty easy. She's quite passive and doesn't really have any big combos. But when she pulls out that second sword, oh boy, that's when shit gets downright diabolical. Right off the bat she turns into a fucking Beyblade and tries to give my insides some fresh air. The reason she's so hard is because phase 2 has very few consistent openings. Or well, the attacks that do give openings, she doesn't like doing them very often. She just loves spamming these 5 or 6 hit plus combos, which absolutely don't want to make me dropkick a toddler. Not at all. Why do you ask? The key with this boss is to be patient, like with most hard bosses. It's just that the temptation to get an extra hit or two in is just too big, and that's when I get punished. I was in call with my friend when I beat this boss, and saying I was basically having an orgasm when I beat it would be an understatement. All in all, this boss is absolutely great, S tier. With that, we can move on to Lothric Castle. We're one step closer to the femboy prince. After making our way up this ladder, we enter the consumed king's garden to attend Oceiros' baby shower. This guy's a bit of a goofball to be sure. So he's holding an invisible baby? Okay. Wait, what are you doing? Oh, no, you didn't read the box? It said fragile. Oh well. This guy's pretty easy to be honest. In phase 1, this guy really is nothing special, and if you just stay below / behind him, there's not a lot he can do as long as you dodge his attacks and you stay away from the cum clouds. But when he reaches phase 2, you really need to pay more attention. His attacks become much faster and more erratic. My main strat is still staying under / behind him, and when he does the spin, just dodge and keep pummeling him. You can also do a Vordt cosplay and start rushing at you, which is a thing that happens. It's pretty annoying, but if you make him run into a wall, you can get quite a few hits in for free. This boss only took me around 10 tries to beat, but most of those deaths were learning his attacks, because I had only fought him only once before, I think, and the other deaths were just me being a silly little goose. After killing a single fodder, we grab his gesture that will come in useful later, and oh, what's this? Secret tunnel! Yeah, this area is so fucking cool. Oh, and I also rank him in C tier, for not being a total ass, but not that great either. So this is the intended graves. The area and all the vibes, just immaculate. The first time I saw this, I was just surprised Pikachu. Making a dark version of the tutorial level with a stronger version of the tutorial boss at the end, that's some good shit. Speaking of which, Champion Gundyr is one of the most satisfying bosses in Dark Souls history. This guy's design is just incredible. His attacks are so smooth and generally well telegraphed. I really like this guy. I was fighting him for a combined 2 hours, which might sound like a lot, but I honestly really enjoyed those 2 hours. Fighting this dude doesn't feel like a chore. Every time I died, it felt like it was just really me being dumb and not the game being unfair. The best way I can describe fights like this is a really elegant dance. You and your partner are both in sync with each other, you gotta match each other's pace to the T and just... oh my god. The way I beat him is a combination of parrying his attacks with some extra attacks in between. Not really sure why people respect parrying less than just fighting the boss, because it's still really difficult. Especially in Dark Souls 3 compared to Dark Souls 1, where parrying was the easiest thing ever. God, I love this guy. Easiest S tier in my whole life. This guy is not a boss. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, remember that gesture we acquired after beating up that single dad? Well, this is where we use it, to transport ourselves to the Archdragon Peak. This area is gorgeous. I wish it was bigger, to be honest. This area screams missed potential. Oh well, so yeah, like I said, Ancient Wyvern isn't a boss. He's a weird kind of gimmick boss, but I genuinely don't count him as one. You just play through the first part of the level, plunge attack him, and boom, now you're in the actual level. I beat him on my 3rd try, which might sound bad, but hear me out. The first time I just died to the snake enemies. The second time, however, he just got stuck on some pillars and I could not plunge him, so I was soft-locked. The third time he luckily just stayed and died, so I could move on to the actual level, F tier. I was gonna talk about Nameless King next, but I'm gonna put an Irithyll and save that for later. For good reason, mind you. So remember when we killed the Scoliosis woman? Well, that gave us access to Lothric Castle, which doesn't house a lot of goodies for us, but it does give us access to the Grand Archives, which we need to go through to get to the throne room. Blocking our way to the archives is Dragon Slayer armor. I have very mixed feelings on this boss. On the one hand, his design, like the big shield and weird dragon stick bug things floating around, is super cool, but on the other hand, he's just quite tedious. On a normal run, you kill him too fast for him to do anything interesting, and you can tank through most of his attacks with relative ease. But on a level 1 run, you die in 2 hits at most? So the strat I figured out is to bait out his forward shield bash into the ground. This guarantees you can get off 2 hits with relative safety, and was the one strategy I found that works with little risk. In phase 2, you do gotta pay more attention due to the floating stick bugs, but apart from that, this boss wasn't bad. It took me like 2 hours because I was hellbent on fighting him normally for quite a while. That is definitely the biggest thing I've discovered with these runs. Some bosses you just can't fight normally unless you want to spend 10 hours hitting your head against the wall. It just really sucks because I don't want to have to exploit the boss's AI like this, but I just don't have a lot of other options if I want to release this video before the sun explodes. B tier for being a really mid boss. Apart from the design, which is nothing crazy, but it's alright. After killing a suit of armor, we can finally enter the Duke's Archives. Huh? Oh, my bad. Grand Archives. Weird. This place honestly feels straight out of Bloodborne with the whole aesthetic, to be honest. I kinda like it for that reason alone. Or maybe it's the Stockholm Syndrome speaking. At this point I just don't know anymore. Making our way up the big stairs, we can enter the femboy's bedroom. This puts his protective older brother, who doesn't like him romantically, obviously, into a fit of rage, which means we have to fight him. This is honestly a really cool fight. The whole concept of Lorien teleporting around to attack you is really clever and was executed really well. When he teleports, you don't know whether to preemptively roll, because he can do either a fast attack or a delayed attack, which makes it so the fight isn't a total cakewalk. He has a lot of openings. That isn't the problem. The biggest problem in this fight is against your stamina. You have to constantly keep moving and rolling because Lorien can attack in very quick succession. This is another thing I noticed during this challenge, especially in the latter half of the game. You run out of stamina a lot, so you have to pay very close attention to the meter. I like this. It adds another layer of mechanical difficulty onto the run, which is not superficial or stupid. After putting the older brother in his place, the fanboy gets out of bed and starts riding him. This gives the brother so much raw sexual energy that he spontaneously gets up again. Phase 2 is the same as Phase 1, except for the fact that there is now the occasional magic attack to dodge, and you have to hit Lorien from behind to actually damage Lothric, which you need to do to make any progress. I honestly really like this. It's another level of gameplay difficulty that doesn't rely on bad hitboxes or any kind of bullshit. This doesn't make the fight a whole lot harder, but they definitely give me a few close calls. This boss gets a solid A tier from me. It's a good fight, but it's not that good. Alright, I have to confess something to you all. I lied. In the opening, you see Nameless King, but I actually haven't beaten him yet. I know, I'm also crying and seething. This is the case for all the DLC bosses. For example, I've already sunk about 7 hours into Sister Frida, so I've made an executive decision. I'm gonna beat the final boss and that'll conclude this video. But I have a question for all of you. Do you want a part 2? The part 2 where I fight all the remaining bosses. That's gonna be lots of pain and suffering. Fun! But if the reception on this video is good enough, I might consider doing it. So, if you want to see me experience extreme levels of pain and agony, let me know down below by subscribing and liking. But we're not done yet. After offering up all the Lord Souls we've collected over the course of our journey, the Anime Watchers, Yum the Giant, Aldrfilth, Devourer of Garbage, and the Alabama Princess, we can finally make our way into the kiln of the First Flame for one final showdown with the big guy himself, the Lord of Cinder. This boss gets an immediate S tier for the pure feels and music alone. I remember the first time I fought this boss so vividly and how much pure emotion I felt. Not because the boss is some kind of masterpiece, but because of how far I'd come. From not even being able to kill Latex Gundyr to beating the final boss of Dark Souls 3. It truly is a feeling I cannot describe. It's such a raw, strong feeling that makes you feel both truly sad that it's finally over, but also truly happy that you were able to experience this game in the first place. Dark Souls 3 isn't the best Souls. Hell, it's not even my favorite Souls game. But in its flawed design, there's some passion hidden deep within, kind of like a faint ember, burning with all its might until the final cinder goes out. The first phase of Soul of Cinder is an interesting one. It is 4 different classes with different movesets baked into one boss with mixed results. The 4 classes include the decent one, the really good one, the awful one, and the easy one. The sword class is fine enough. It's just a generic sword class with a few interesting attacks, but it's mostly kind of meh. The spear class is by far the best and my favorite one. You can actually strategize a bit during this phase, because you can get some extra hits in with clever positioning, and in general, it feels like the most balanced and well polished class of them all. The curved sword class is utter sewage. I have no idea how this boss made it through testing. It's genuinely like you're playing against another player, with how much he spams awful attacks with little to no openings. I always just wait for him to phase transition to the next class by running away, because this guy just makes me angry. And last but not least, we have the Mage class. This is definitely the easiest class to punish. His attacks are pretty easy to dodge and don't deal all too much damage, even on the level 1 run, so you can just kind of hack away and make him your bitch. Not a bad class, but just a little too easy, especially the Comet Azure Beam knockoff, which is a massive opening for damage. Now phase 2 is something that I did not see coming in the least bit. In phase 2 he starts using an improved version of Gwyn's moveset, the original Lord of Cinder. This was such a genius move and greatly made me realize how far this franchise has come. Just in every aspect really. I became a fan much more recently than most people, but I really do love these games with all my heart, and I hope I was able to express that throughout these insane ramblings of mine. It's definitely a flawed franchise in a few places, but that makes me appreciate the incredible parts all the more. Now, let's finally put this franchise and Gwyn to rest as the fire fades one last time. Before I say anything else, thank you specifically, yes you, the viewer, so much for sticking around to this point. I could never express my thanks to a degree I'd be satisfied with, so I hope you can take my word for it. This was my first massive project like this, and I'm honestly beyond happy with how it turned out. Dark Souls and gaming in general mean a great deal to me, and I hope that by continuing to make these kinds of videos in the future, I'll be able to do this medium justice, along with expressing myself artistically. There's a million different ideas I have for future videos, but I'm honestly just gonna wait and see how this one gets received before I do anything else. Please do let me know your thoughts and any tips and or critiques you have in the comments down below, and whether you'd like to see the part 2 in the future. Also like and subscribe to support the channel and to not miss that part 2 if it ever comes out. I guess that only leaves one more thing to say. This game really is the Dark Souls of Dark Souls.